Hi guys, we just shot on Facebook Live a video showing what makes Beaducation Original stamps so special.
We've had these manufactured in a way that helps you line up your letters in a straight line, and they're USA made, which is pretty cool. So we're going to demonstrate how that works, how to use these stamps, and you're going to love it. But don't forget that this was shot as a live video, so we're talking to people who are viewing and talking to us, but we've edited it here for you to live on YouTube and on our website, and it's pretty fun. So let's get into the video.
Let's do it.
So our Beaducation Original stamp sets, let me grab, this is the original. This is the lowercase Kismet. And I'll zoom in so you can see the letters really well. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to point out, the way that our manufacturer makes these, and it's pretty brilliant, is for this particular set, the small short letters like the N, M, A, C are centered on the stamp. But then you might look at the B, for example, right there and think, oh, that's not centered on the stamp. Why is it way up there? Or the K, why is it shifted up on the stamp? And that's because if you take these stamps and line up the bottom of the shank with a line or a curve or something like that, all the letters will line up. So that's what we're here to talk about today, because it's a little confusing to people. So you can see that, let me just turn these like this. If I lined that up, the A would be center. If I lined that up, the bulk of the B would be centered, because that's the part that needs to center with the A. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to word.
It all sit on the same bottom line.
Yeah, so the bottom of the letter, well, but then you get into the J and the H, or the G and all that, so that's the opposite. Let's move over to here, to the G. So it's shifted low on the stamps. Let me just grab these four, because they're right next to each other, and this will help make sense. So you can see if I line them all up, and let me try to zoom in and give the camera a second to focus. See how the bulk of the letter, the importance of the letter, like the bottom of the F, the top of the G, the bottom of the H, and the E itself are all lined up. So that's how you use these stamps. Now, the uppercase doesn't really matter because they're all the same size.
Right.
Typically, they all are the same height. But it's when the lowercase comes in that it gets a little tricky. So I'll show you, let's see, I have it drawn big here in case that helps. So like A will be centered and an F will be high. And if we're looking at the same stamp, a G would be shifted low. So that this part lines up with this part, that lines up with this part.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, you can still use a tape thing where if you drag it down, it hits the tape. It will be fine for this size letter, but you know with the tape, you always have to adjust for the one with the ascenders and descenders. Isn't that what they're called? Did I just make that up? I think that's right. I'm going to start by showing you with a line. Now, you could also do this with the edge of metal. That's what I do for, I say it on your wrist cuffs. I just use the edge of the metal as my guide, and I can demonstrate that too. So this is going to be a little bit wonky because I'm standing in a weird position, so hopefully everything will come out correctly so I don't look like a big fat liar. But I'm going to use the edge of this as my guide, the edge of this line. Now remember, this line's really, really thick. So you don't want to line up the edge of your stamp to just the line anywhere, because that'll totally adjust. You need to decide, are you going to line it up to the bottom of the line, or are you going to line it up to the top of the line?
Which one are you doing?
I don't know. The top.
I like the top, yeah.
Okay, so I got to take my glasses off so I can see here. So for this, I'm going to line it up, and you guys can see from your bird's eye view right there. And this is my A.
And you're lining up the side of the stamp that your thumb's on.
Correct. Yeah. Right there. And we'll shift the camera view in a minute so we can get a different angle. Maybe we'll zoom in a little. Okay, so that's the A that's going to, and you also need to keep that in mind with designing, that that letter is not going to sit right on the line. So if you wanted that letter centered on a circle, your line needs to be a little bit low.
Okay. That does make sense.
And now here is the B. And I'm going to look at it from my view. Hopefully I've got it in the right place because I got a camera in front of me. And so see how that lined it up with the A? Mm-hmm. So let me just do something low. So now with the G, I'm spelling the word abg.
Abiga.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the hottest name for 2018.
Abg.
Abiga.
So normally with a lowercase, you would shift the whole stamp down to get the bulk. But on this Kismet set, it's shifted high in the stamp for you. So you don't have to do that. See that? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, everybody? Anybody got questions on that? Mm-mm. Now, I also sometimes do it just using the edge of my metal. Like I said, coincidentally, these fit perfectly on a 5mm strip of sterling that I've made a million cuffs out of in my life. So I just line it up to the edge of the metal without having a line. And it centers really, really well. Cool? Mm-hmm. That one I got a little low. You can't really see. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I realized a little funky trick while I was messing around with this today. And Mel, I haven't even shown you this trick.
Ooh, I can't wait.
And I think it might be super smart or super dumb. And we can all decide together. All right, I'm going to get some. So on this circle, I've already stamped the word hello. And I'm going to stamp the word friend underneath it. If my theory, which since my theory, not if my theory, on how these are made lines up to the bottom thing, you can also put a straight line here that's tall enough to catch the edge of your stamp. So this is tall enough that it's catching this, not the bottom of my letter. The stamp itself.
Oh, because the ruler pops up a little bit.
Because it's tall,
yes,
super tall. I could use a piece of wood. Tape is too short, so you see how this is catching that, okay? So if you wanted to get a super straight line, and this may seem like overkill for some of you guys, but for beginners or people that are in production work, if you have this tape sitting here and you have your ruler sitting there, it's really not that much setup.
Right.
And now, actually it's a little crooked to the hello. I'm going to do this bottom one in Kismet. So now when I do the F and I bring it down, this is hitting the stamp. Does that make sense? So if you had a jig here, you don't even have to pay attention to lining it up to a line.
What are you going to end up writing?
Friend.
Oh, hello, friend. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Ooh, that's bad stamping.
Is that
right there.
electrical tape? What kind of tape is that you're...
That's our stamping tape. It's just basic thick tape. Did I spell it right?
Hello, friend. Yes, yes.
But I
I'm
messed
before
up.
E except after C.
I messed up my R. It'd be funny if I spelled it wrong.
Yes.
But not surprising, right?
Well,
I think I bumped this guy. So this
still looks pretty darn
It's
good.
a new theory, but I
Yeah.
like it. You just have to make sure that you have it really taped down well. I think on my N, I
you
see
moved
how
a
this
little
is
bit?
shifting? That makes
Still
a
looks-
huge difference.
oh, yeah, you're right.
So I'll let you guys take it from there. I mean, you could do something like build
Looks good,
a
though.
wooden jig here that you just slide your bench block up to, and then it's there. And I mean, I just start playing with it, take it from there. You see how that works?
Yes.
It's kind of fun.
I think it is.
How about any tips for spacing in between the letters?
Spacing in between comes with practice, and it depends on your letter set entirely. So if you had a 6mm uppercase or a 1mm uppercase, you could use the tape to bring your stamp down to, and it will always line up straight. But left to right, it's totally different than a 6mm than a 1mm. So it depends on the stamp, but for me, when I'm stamping with our Kismet set, I know that if I cover half of the previous letter with my stamp, then
That's
it
a good-
spaces it well. That was
that's a good
horrible.
trick.
Because I'm at like a weird angle, but...
It's tough, I think, when you're trying to stay in the frame of the
So this
video.
one, see, you can, it depends on your stamp set. And I'm not paying attention to up and down, I'm paying attention to left to right at this point. So those
you
are a
can't-
little tight. That first one was a little wide. So you can do that, but honestly, what I really do is look for the reflection. So I would take a Pro Polish pad, I would shine this up, and as my stamp comes down, I would look at it left to right and find the right spot and stamp. But that question leads us into our next discussion, which is our new tapered sets. So these guys left to right totally help because they're tapered down. Let me go back in with the zoom action here. They're tapered and ground down right to the tip of the letter. So the bulk of the letter, say like on this, see how there's a circle and the letter protrudes from it? That hides. You can't see where you're placing it because of that. But on these tapered ones, you can see it because it's tapered down. So whatever you see touching the metal is actually the side of the letter.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I wording that
Yes.
well?
Yeah, I
Laura,
mean, you
you have
really,
any-
the spacing, you would really be able to get them that way.
Yeah, because then you can see exactly, and I'm going to move the camera really quick so we can have a slightly different angle on this. All right, so here's my letter E, and you can see where you place it. See that edge right there? That's the edge of the letter, and that's the edge of the letter, and that's the edge of the letter. So you can see placement exactly where it's going.
That's amazing.
Does that make sense? This is uppercase. You can also use the tape trick, easy peasy. But again, lowercase is a little trickier, but that's when this tapered comes in great because the edge of the letter, that little point right in there, is actually the edge of the letter. So you can see here exactly where it lines up.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
if I wanted to get that one right next to it. Now the other thing about these, and this is our new Serendipity set. Let me grab a couple of the lowercase so I can show you guys something. No, not this one. Yeah. So with the Kismet set, all the letters, the like A, C, E letters were perfectly centered. Let's pull that back up, like an O or a C. You see how they're perfectly centered? Is that focusing? On the stamp. It's different with the Serendipity because the larger letters, like a K and an F, which I will grab right now, are so big that they are centered. And then to get the smaller letters to line up with them, they are shifted down on the stamp. So if ever you're looking at our stamps and thinking, oh, these are bad quality, the letters aren't centered, there's a total purpose to that. And it's really smart and really awesome. So you see how I've got these lined up, and if I were to stamp them, everybody would be in the right place.
Yeah.
The other thing about Serendipity is the smaller letters, like an M and an N, and you can see it here, have a little bit of detail underneath it.
Like a little curl, yeah.
So lining it up to tape is a little bit tricky because it will shift it high because it's got that curl underneath. So that's what you deal with when you have a really intricate, interesting font. Sometimes you have to make adjustments. So the takeaway here is all font sets are different. Our Beaducation Originals, take a look at them, understand why the letters are placed where they're placed, because it's different on like the script and the Kismet as it is on Serendipity. And then, of course, practice, stamp out the entire alphabet multiple times until you get to know your set, and then you'll find it very, very easy from there. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm just reading over Peggy's question. I'm trying to
Yeah, I didn't see the
understand
next
that.
part.
She just said, so with the tapered lowercase, it would be harder to find, like, in quotes, G, lowercase g.
To find it or to center it?
I think she means maybe to center it.
In Serendipity, specifically?
The
Nope.
letter G.
Well, no,
Lowercase.
because
Oh,
it's
G is similar to
it's actually, let me find it.
G or a J, I guess.
Meaning the part that is...
Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah, the G actually is a little bit low on the stamp as well. See? So the stuff with the drop down low, they're not really intricate below that. So the G, and you can see the K and the F are a little bit high, which is right. Let me find the P and the Q. So same here. See how that is? So we pushed it right to the edge, but When those are all stamped together, they line up perfectly.
Yeah, so you don't have to guess about how to line it up from top to bottom as long as you're just right on the line. You're putting the
Yeah.
shank up to the line.
Yeah, and that's how they were first made. Taryn, who made most of the designs in our book, she did an entire cuff with script with like 4 sentences. And when we were talking about the tape thing, she's like, oh, I never do that. I just line up the shank like you're supposed to. And she gets them perfectly straight.
Did you say that the tapered stamps are easier to use than the non-tapered?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we made them. And they're much more expensive because they take twice as long to make. I mean, you can imagine the work it takes to grind it right to the letter. I think they're absolutely easier, but at the same time, I've used our traditional stamp so often that I am used to that. You know what I mean? Like, I would be fine sticking with that. So this is uppercase. I could have used tape, right? You don't have to really look because uppercase are always the right size. I mean, the same size.
You guys, if there was a question Carol had asked if we were going to do all the sets in tapered, and I think that we want to just see what the response is because we had gotten so many people asking for us to make a tapered set. So if you guys like the Serendipity tapered, there's definitely a possibility of getting the other sets in tapered.
It's a lot of pressure.
And the update on the lowercase, we don't know yet, but I'm hoping it'll be, it'll be in the new year in January. That would be my guess.
Sorry, I didn't realize my hand was hiding it that entire time. So script, let's do the same word. Okay, so this is the non-tapered. So I'm going to use the edge of the stamp and use that as my guide, line it up to the line.
Mm-hmm. That is a really pretty font as well.
It is. I like it. It's fun. Where's my O? I can't spell. Hope is really hard to spell. So this is one where I would take my stamp and like half cover the letter before me.
Yeah.
But what I didn't point out before is there's a lot of thin letters, like an L. So it doesn't really work for that, or an I.
Oh, that makes sense.
You don't want to have them overlap.
Oh my gosh, it just looks so pretty.
I wish you guys could see me. I'm like hugging the camera.
Yeah, it is
over the
awkward
top
for her to do it with the camera.
Hugging
Can you
it.
tell us again which script font this is? This is the Beaducation original?
Beaducation Original lowercase script font.
Heck yeah, it's a Beaducation original.
I do like it though. I like how you can, like you said, when you are covering part of it, it looks like the letters really do connect because it's like cursive.
Yeah, Taryn is amazing at that, how she gets them perfect. Mm-hmm. And they are made, we might be making another script font. Just say it like that.
Oh yes, they might be.
And we specifically spend a lot of time on these fonts. We get the fonts, we usually bring it into Photoshop and change it so it works better for stamps. And we make them so that they do absolutely connect. My head is so close to the camera, I'm probably yelling at them.
No, actually, Tamara
my gosh,
is
I'm in
saying
love
that
with
she
that.
loves the camera angle. She could see
I
exactly
do
what
too.
you're doing.
And that looks so pretty too. I love it.
So that sort of, that's not bad.
Whoa.
That's fun. That's fun to say. Whoa.
That's pretty.
I mean, I can oxidize it, polish it. Moxidize it, you can see it better.
Oh, it looks really good.
Those lined up nice.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little off there. And these are really, really sharp. They're engraved beautifully, so you barely have to hit them. In fact, on the product page, there's an alt view that shows if you hit them too hard, you lose a little of their detail, especially in soft metal. Mm-hmm. So you can actually lighten up because they sink in so well. I think the K is my favorite.
It's beautiful.
It's so cute. Mm-hmm. When I was stamping this aluminum this morning, I took the plastic off because you want the plastic off and the plastic's on the good side. And then I just stuck it on the back side and then stamped. It's just like using the new scratch resistant little stickers that we have.
Yeah.
And the difference is, I mean, you're still going to see the protrusion if you're stamping really hard, but it's not all scratched up.
Yeah, it looks
Can you
really
see that?
clean.
So on this mandala, I did not put it there. And you can see the difference in the, you're always going to see that little dent, but not all scratched up. So I did the same on this tree blank. So when you get it, it's here. I just peel it off, flip it, and stick it on here, and then stamp on it.
Smart. I loved it.